All right, so Jake and Angel, y'all weren't here yesterday, so we have an assignment that I posted. It's called Lesson 4B, Variables and Conditionals. All right, so you're going to come up with a story, and your reader will navigate through your story, and you'll give them basic prompts to figure out what to do and what will happen to them. All right, this is going to kind of look like a dichotomous key from science. Okay, where you only have like two options to choose from, and it tells you to go somewhere else. All right. You're going to have to follow the pattern of if, then, and else conditionals. Okay, so you're going to give them a little bit of text saying, this is what's going on in the story. What option would you like to do? Option A, you do this and go down this path. Or option B, you do this and go down this different path. All right, and then you just stem from there. All right. It needs to be at least 2 pages typed, size 11 font.
2 pages typed?
Yeah.
Oh.
Can use color coding to make things kind of connect a little bit more smoothly. You'll kind of see that down here. And the end result should be different from the other results, as the person should be making some good choices and some bad choices. So you're not going to have one ending. Okay, you'll have multiple endings. All right, so a lot of brainstorming is going to be required for this. All right, you can take a story you already know, like Goldilocks and Three Bears, Red Riding Hood, something like that, and just kind of tweak it a little bit. If you want to, that's fine by me. I'm not worried about the content of the story. I'm more worried about if you're understanding conditionals. Okay. So things do things that come to an end result if they chose the right options. If they chose poorly, they will not end up where they needed to be. So here's an example of something your parents might have to go through, and there's a little graphic of like brainstorming of how it would flow. All right. So it's a good idea to have like A for yes and B for no, or A for your positive and B for your negative choice. So here's a scenario. So it's Monday morning and your son's alarm clock hasn't gone off yet, but he's about to be late for school and you need to leave for work. Do you leave for work, push A, and let him learn his lesson and be responsible? Or do you spend time to wake him up and make sure he gets out the door, push B? Okay, so if you chose A, then you'd go down to this section, read what's happening here, and then make a separate choice. If you chose B, you would skip this A section and then come down here and read B and make those choices, okay? So you just kind of keep building your story from there. For your code, I would create a variable and call it like score or points or something like that, and we'll go over that in a second. And you can add a point system so that every time A is pushed, you add 1. Every time B is pushed, you can subtract 1 or subtract nothing. All right. At the end of the story, you can have the person push A and B on the microbit to show their variable score or points or whatever you chose. Then you can say something like, and this is, some people are getting confused, you can put this part at like the bottom of your story, okay? So you can say, score range from 0 to 5, you had a bad day, 6 to 10, you made it through the day, 11 through 15, it was an amazing day, okay? So what choices you made in the story as the reader going through pushing A or B determines the outcome, all right? So be sure to give the person, the reader, instructions on how to operate your microbit at the very beginning of your story. Okay, have it as like instructions or a tutorial or something. Okay, so you need to tell them, make sure you push A. If you'd like to see your score, push A and B, so on and so forth. All right, so these are just some ideas to get you thinking about how to code it and to make your story flow. Keeping it simple, yes, no, left or right, up or down options that would eventually lead to a result. Okay, think of these as binary options. Okay, you only have 2 options, either go left or you go right. Okay, you either say hi to that person or you just walk past them. Okay, something like that. So having it split into separate story arcs and storylines may be a little too complicated, but if you think you have that ability, please do so, as it can actually make your assignment a lot better in the long run. Now, what you need to turn in, I have added Google Docs to your assignment that have this name. Okay, it'll say last name, conditional story. Make sure you erase everything else and just actually type your last name, conditional story. Same thing for here. All right. Erase last name, put in your last name, CS code. Okay. Conditional story code. So you'll have a Google Doc for your screenshots of your code. You'll have a reflection piece. So this should have any ideas and storylines you've created. Also should have some sort of tree branching diagram to show your person's choices and what happens to their score. And this might actually might be easier for you to do on paper, okay, just so that you can draw all the lines and things like that. If you do that, just take a picture of it. So here's a couple of examples of like very rough draft tree branching. So you start, you read something, you say yes or no. If you go no, you go down this path, yes or no, so on and so forth. Okay, so if you had no, 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 that's probably the really worst option possible. So you really want that Monday to be over. All right. Now, that doesn't mean that no, yes, yes is a terrible day, okay, because you had a lot of yeses, but you started off with a no. So it's not the best, but also not the worst. So yes, 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 yes. It's a great day. Yes, no, yes, so on and so forth. All right. That's just an example. All right. Here's another one where there's like a score range. All right. So here's the code part. Let me adjust all of this. Maybe. All right. I would just do this CS story. Sorry, conditional story. If you want to just put like your actual story's name, that is also perfectly fine. So, basic inputs. A is pressed. B is pressed. A and B. And then I'll even do a shake. Okay. Now I need to set my variable. Make a variable. Call it score. On start, we're going to set it to 0. And then on A, we'll change it by 1. B, we can do -1 or -1 or set it to 0. On A and B, we are going to show number and then plug in our variable. All right. And then on shake, we can set score to 0. So if we finish the story or decided, man, we're making a lot of bad decisions, we can shake it up. All right, so that's very simple. All right, so I push A, B, 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 A. My score is 3. All right. You can also make it so that you show the score after each one. If you want to, you would just duplicate and add that into all of those. But I would also, if you're going to do that, I would add some pause timings. Okay. So this is essentially how you could code it. Makes it nice and simple. So the code isn't going to be very hard. The hard part is the concept of making the story using conditionals. If you go to the right, then do this. If you don't go to the right, else do this. All right.